Hey everyone, welcome back. So today is part 2 of getting your house ready to move. Last part 1, 2 weeks ago, I shared my list, my notebook, the things I had on my list that I had to get ready before when I was arranging the move. So these are all things that were happening weeks, even months, potentially prior to actual move date. So today I'm going to show you how I got the inside of the house ready for actual move date. Here's the thing, you're not having to pack everything as if you're moving it out of the house. However, you still have to pack things up because you're moving the house, and there's going to be some jostling around. And in my case, when I moved from Calgary to Vancouver Island, we blew a tire on this side of the house, and that was a big jostle. And it did end up, I had some plant pots, some ceramic pots in a box, and I hadn't put anything between the pots, and they clanged together and broke a couple of the pots. There wasn't any other damage, but just reminded me that you should put, just maybe a book, a cookbook or something in between those things, a towel, things like that. However, you still have to get things ready. And one of the best pieces of advice that I got from Noemi and Andrew were my movers at A&N Transport. And her advice was, if it wasn't on the wall when you received your house from your builder, then it shouldn't be on the wall when you move your tiny house. With some exceptions, I didn't take the curtain rods down. But that was excellent advice, and I followed that. I didn't take my plant rail down, my plate rail down either, because it's bolted to the walls. But anything else came off. That's a really good rule of thumb, is if it wasn't on the wall, hanging on the wall when you received your tiny house, it should not be on the wall when you move your tiny house. So that means that all of the pictures came down, stood most of them up beside my bed. I'll show you. As I did a quick walk through the house as I was on the day before the move day. And so you'll see how it was set up. I packed a bit more securely from the move from Calgary to Vancouver Island because it was a much longer distance, over 2 days, whereas it was just a 45-minute drive from my first spot to where I am now. So this is the part 2 of getting your tiny house ready to move inside. Okay, let's just start at the front door here. The first thing I did, what I had to do here was everything that was in the closet hanging came off. What I did was I just rested it on the shelf here and put all of the shoes, loose stuff in a bin. But I also took down this little shelving unit because, again, you don't want any pressure, anything heavy on that rod when it's moving, because if the house shifts and this shifts, that could potentially slide off, and then you just got a big mess to clean up. And the goal here is to prevent a big mess to clean up when you get to your new spot. Next, obviously, the picture had to come down. This ladder got laid down on the floor. The first trip, I think it was laid on the bed. Cannot remember, but it did not stay there, because if it did, it was going to fall over. I didn't take the curtains down or the curtain rods because curtains aren't heavy, and I was confident that the rods were in there nice and tight. But I did take the light down, took the sign, all the plants, anything that was there came down. And what I did was put everything in boxes and bins. I actually found a fellow on Facebook Marketplace that had moved, and he was getting rid of a bunch of moving boxes for free. So I just drove over and picked those up. And when I was done, I donated those boxes. So again, all the shoes, everything like that just got put into a bins. I wanted this tidy. So on the floor were the bins and the boxes wedged between here and the cupboard, so that things weren't going to slide around. The stools got laid on their sides. And I laid an old blanket down on the floor so that nothing was scratching the floor. Stools got laid on their sides, and I just sort of set things in between the legs to keep everything steady. So the goal was so that when the house started and stopped, things weren't sliding back and forth. Obviously, the TV came down. The fireplace came off. Picture off. Everything off the walls. Then when it came to the loft, everything had to come down out of the loft. So that AC unit had to come down on when I moved from Calgary. Keaton actually brought that down the ladder, but when I moved it for the 2 spots here, I just slid it, rolled it back, and brought it out through the closet because there's a doorway there. But that could not stay up there. Nothing could stay up there that was going to slide around because, again, we did not want anything sliding off and crashing down to the ground. So everything in the loft has to come off if it's at all going to slide. And if it's heavy, for sure, it should come out of the loft. So the kitchen is something that is really important because you got a lot of heavy stuff in the kitchen. There are straps that are still mounted to the back that strapped in the stove and the fridge. The straps are still back there, so I brought those around, strapped it. But I took the heavy stuff out of the top of the fridge. So any condiments, anything heavy came out of the fridge and into a cooler because, again, I didn't want to take the chance of things sliding around in here, even though I had zip tied these things together. I think it was zip tied. Yeah, zip tied the handles together and this was strapped in. Just, again, you don't want things bouncing around. Now, you have to empty your cupboards. I know you don't want to, but you have to. And here's why. On the move from Calgary to Vancouver Island, I emptied all my cupboards, including the cutlery drawer and the corner cupboards. Everything got emptied and into boxes and bins, and they were just stored on the floor here, in between here and there, sort of wedged. On the trip between the 2 spots, I forgot to empty this one drawer. And now it rubs, it doesn't close properly, and I still have to adjust that. It's now off kilter, and that's why. So, because there are pots in there. Any drawer that's got anything heavy in it, if it was just Tupperware, I would probably leave it. But just empty your drawers. Trust me on this one. You don't want to deal with it. So once you've emptied everything out and strapped in your appliances, then you want to zip tie the drawers together. Now, these are soft close drawers. They're not supposed to sort of swing open, but they're also not meant for travel. So if you zip tie everything, then nothing's going to swing open. And I think that's the key, is just making sure that nothing just sort of swings open. I made sure to pack up everything on this shelf as well, including the microwave and the toaster oven. They came off the counter onto the floor in a big box. And I just, you know, for dishes and such, I just grabbed some flyers and I put a piece of newsprint between each one, because while we weren't going far, we could potentially, again, blow another tire. I was really concerned about that, and I didn't want anything breaking. A la my Fiesta ware, I didn't want it breaking. I did not take the curtain off, but that's the only thing that I didn't take off. And I made sure to remember to take this out so it didn't come sliding out. So everything except for that one drawer did really well, even under the sink. Yeah, because there's some heavy stuff under there, and I wanted to be sure that nothing was going to push against there and potentially mess up the hinges like it did on that drawer. Yeah, so you're getting the theme, right? So when it came to my printer and my files in my file drawer, the printer came down and it went on the floor underneath the desk. And that was really important because we didn't want this falling out. And this drawer is heavy because it's got a lot of files in it. Everything in my cupboards went into a box or a bin. I did not leave anything in my cupboards. I did not want to take any chances that things would fall. So that meant that even my pantry, everything in the pantry came out. The moral of the story is, Get everything off out of your cupboards and off your shelves, because even though you're not moving them out of the house, they will shift when you move, and you don't want it ruining your shelves, your cupboards, or potentially falling out. Which meant that all of this also got packed up. Now, the one thing I didn't empty was my storage drawers, because they open this way and there's nothing super heavy in there. And so they're pretty secure. So I didn't empty these. These were the only things that I didn't empty. They stayed as is. And what was in here stayed as is too. So when it came to this and the storage steps, I didn't have to do anything, which was nice because I was doing everything else. Bathroom. Yes, you have to do the same in the bathroom. I took the shower curtain rod down because it's just a tension rod, and I knew that this could potentially shift and fall down, so why not do it now? I took it down and I put everything in the tub. Everything went in the tub that was in the bathroom that had to. So everything came off the wall, everything came off the shelves. These bins that have makeup and other stuff, my first aid kit, any of those things, they came out and got put into the tub. I left the towels as is. They're light. They're not going to be rolling around. And I didn't worry about this because I had some boxes between here and here that were going to make sure that this didn't slide around. Pretty much so everything went on the floor in here or in the tub. Don't forget, you've got to empty your medicine cabinet. Let's head up to the bedroom. Oh, what have we got here? What have we got here? Let's see if we can hear her. Sophie. Doesn't matter how hot it is, Sophie still wants to be under the blankets. All of the artwork, everything came off of the walls. Nothing stayed on the walls. And I stood all my artwork and my TV and my fireplace, everything's pretty much got stood up here because this was a good place to put it. I could wedge things in here pretty nice and snug and keep them from sliding around. In the first move, and I can't remember, I'll have to look back at the video, we'll see together when we pull it back. I had the ladder on the floor, either on one side or the other, or was it on the bed? I think it was on the floor. So the nightstand and this little TV stand, they got laid on their sides. Again, the TV came off. Everything came off. Let's look in the closet. So when it came to the closet, I did the same thing both times. I took all of my hangers off, all the clothes in the hangers off, and I just laid them down systematically all the way to the back so that everything just was, all I had to do was pick it up and hang it back up. Ouch, just bumped my head. And that was really the best way to do that, because there's no point in taking it off the hangers, taking it out of the closet or anything like that, because I had things stored in here. Both of these drawer units stayed where they were, actually all three. So this was a really easy spot to take care of, because when I got to my new spot, all I had to do was hang everything back up, push things out, move things back out through that doorway into the, ooh, that's way too close to me. Move things through that doorway back into the loft, and we were set. So getting the inside of the house ready to go took a bunch of work, but it wasn't hard because I wasn't hauling things. So I'm sorry. Sorry, didn't mean to disrupt you. You were having a nice little nap. Because I wasn't packing things out of the house, it wasn't heavy work. I mean, it got heavy, obviously the cans and things like that. I just tried not to overfill every box. And I just started a couple weeks before taking down the books, taking down the pictures, starting to pack up the pantry, things that I didn't need. I just started packing up. And that made it manageable because I committed to myself to doing small bites. So a little bit every day, at the end of every day of work, and on the weekends, I mostly worked on the outside, getting the outside ready to go, but on the weekdays, I just worked on the inside. So it was pretty straightforward. And then the day of the move is when we just sort of Jenga'd everything in here to keep it nice and snug and secure for the move. The thing is, when you do this sort of a move, it's the opportunity to get rid of a bunch of crap. And you don't even, I didn't even realize how much I had collected already. Certainly when I moved from Calgary to the island, I did a ton of purging and donating. But even moving, even in that, not even a year from the first spot to this spot, there was already things that I had to get rid of, wanted to get rid of. So, Sophie. Anyways, that's part 2 of getting your house ready to go. The big piece here is that nothing that was, if it wasn't on the wall when you received your tiny house or finished building it, if you built it yourself, it shouldn't be on the wall when you move the tiny house. That's number 1. And number 2, empty all drawers, all pantries, all cupboards. Put everything on the floor in bins and boxes so that it's not going to fall out. So it's not going to fall out. And that will just be peace of mind. And it's not, yeah, it's a hassle, but it's not a ton of work to put it all back. So I hope that was useful. Again, that's part 2 of getting your tiny house ready to move. And in part 3, I will just go over outside all of the things I did to get the tiny house ready to move. So I hope that that was helpful for those of you who are about to move your tiny house. Maybe my tips and tricks can be useful for you. So I hope you guys are doing well. I hope you're staying safe and cool. Ooh, it's hot here. Remember, in a world where you can be anything, be kind, including to yourself. I love you, and I'll see you next time.